This is the Reeldeemers, where we tackle B-sides, the offbeat, and the overlooked. We've worked in and around Hollywood, so we know just how hard it is to get a movie made. This is our space to celebrate cinematic misfits we hope you'll enjoy as much as we do. And today it's a special episode in our Razzie Reeldemption series, so get your sunscreen and sabers ready as we travel to the island. I'm one of your hosts, Andre Sanglade, and with me is my co-host.
Hello, everybody. Greg Bellavia here.
And here we celebrate movies we feel deserve some more championing. Maybe a second look, just our space to enjoy and chat. Here's the thing with the Razzie Reeldemptions. There's a good chance that we might not really connect with the films. But we're here to celebrate movies, so we're going to find the good, even in what the Razzies consider quote-unquote bad. And today we're looking at The Island, directed by Michael Ritchie and released in 1980. Now, we typically start with our history with the film before delving into its background and setting the stage with its plot. We then finish in celebrating the film even further by running through our categories to highlight our favorite aspects. But first, Greg, what are the Razzies?
Wait, we're not doing the Michael Bay Island? Shoot, hang on, let me get on Wikipedia real quick about this one. No, I watched the 1980s one. I feel like we've all heard the Razzies, but Once Upon a Time started off as a scrappy endeavor by UCLA grads John J.B. Wilson and Mo Murphy. And it was literally something they did in their living room. It was done as kind of a goof with some friends to kind of poke a stick in the eye of like Hollywood. They had seen something that they would kind of label bad, and just to kind of like take the piss out of it, they did it with some friends. It grew over the years, and they even pointed out that having an award show around the time of the Oscars got them some press. They got picked up on CNN and other news outlets because people were kind of, Hollywood glitz and glamour hungry around the Oscars. So you could get a press release out, hey, we're doing this award show over here that's kind of making fun of it, and people would pick up on that. So it really was, I know it's been around, we've grown up with it all of our lives, but it really was just a group of friends having a good time, and they were able to spin it into something larger throughout the 80s.
That's kind of the dream, right? Starting something and turning it into a big thing with your friends.
The Razzies was in our heart the whole time. And it's the raspberry, like you're blowing a raspberry. I'm not sure how apparent that is, but you're making fun of these big Hollywood blockbusters. And I think that's an important distinction. There's plenty of bad movies out there. The Razzies really concentrates on Hollywood. I think there's something else that came to mind was the Golden Turkey. The Golden Turkey Awards was a book from 1980 by film critic Michael Medved and his brother Harry Medved. And it had a whole host of categories like big films, small films, worst movie monster, most miscast. And, if you've ever heard, Plan 9 from Outer Space is the worst film of all time, that's where that came from. It won the Golden Turkey Award. Now, really, that was just two film critics' opinions, but that kind of like spread from there. So it's not like the Razzies were the only people out there kind of like, taking a shot at, quote unquote, bad movie making. But I think they popularized it in a certain way. But they're aiming big. They're aiming at big Hollywood productions, whereas Golden Turkey was aiming at everybody. It could be like an indie production. And
that's a little unfair, I think.
Exactly. So I think there's a degree of, yes, they're being quote unquote mean, and we can talk on that throughout the podcast about kind of where they've landed recently. But also it did seem like at least there was a point of like, they're attacking huge budget productions. Maybe they can take it a little bit more than a little guy could.
Right. Yeah, that is a good distinction. So how did we choose this film? How did we land on it? We kind of early on decided we would only pick from worst picture and worst director nominees because they have a bunch of categories like they do at the Oscars. And we figured we'd start with the first year, the Razzies, looking at the list of worst picture and worst director nominees. It kind of came down to two films. It was either going to be The Island or Xanadu. And considering we like to champion B-sides or overlooked films, we weren't really as familiar with The Island as Xanadu. Like, I actually haven't seen Xanadu. Have you?
I've seen clips, and I kind of like it. And that almost seemed like cheating. We wanted to go into something that was up for a Razzie completely cold and just give our honest assessment of it.
Exactly. So that's how we landed on the island. Don't worry, we're going to be tackling plenty of other films that have been nominated in those categories. But the island felt like it was right up our alley. The Island stars Michael Caine and David Warner. It's based on a novel by Peter Benchley, who also wrote the screenplay. Benchley's best known as the author of Jaws. Richard D. Zanuck produced Jaws and also produced this film. Now, to me, it's a no-brainer, right? Jaws was a massive hit. Let's make another film based off of Peter Benchley's material. It's directed by Michael Ritchie, whose other directing credits include The Candidate with Robert Redford, the original Bad News Bears, Fletch with Chevy Chase, Wildcats with Goldie Hawn, and The Golden Child with Eddie Murphy. So there's some decent credits in there. The Island was released in June of 1980 and did not do well. Per Box Office Mojo, it made around $15 million on a $22 million budget. But you know what? Box office doesn't concern us here. What did the critics think? Yeah, they weren't fans of it either. It received 2 Razzie nominations, Worst Director, and Greg, do you know the other nomination?
Michael Caine, Worst Actor?
That's correct. Yeah, Michael Caine, Worst Actor, which I gotta say, I don't know if I agree with that. I think, and we'll get into it a little bit later, but he did seem a little bored in the film, but I also feel like...
Okay, I don't disagree. Worst Actor still seems a little harsh.
Agreed. That's kind of what I was trying to get to. I think the nomination's really harsh.
All right, so this was up for Worst Director. And we've covered this recently because we also talked about Dress to Kill with Brian De Palma. And I think this is a good example of, I do not think this is the worst directed movie in the world, but put this up against Dress to Kill, which looks like $1 million. And I think that just kind of points out how silly this all is. And it's subjective. And look, they were just a whole bunch of guys having a good time in a living room. I understand that. But Dress to Kill is a fantastically directed movie, period, but especially compared to something like this.
So let's set the stage. The IMDb plot description says, journalist Blair Maynard, played by Michael Caine, takes his son Justin to investigate pirate activity off the Florida coast. A plane crash strands them on an island of modern-day pirates who brainwash Justin. Blair tries to rescue him and take him home. You know, when I first read that before seeing the film, I thought, part of that sounds similar to a subplot in a Spielberg movie. Could it be that maybe this film inspired a part of Steven Spielberg's Hook? With Hook brainwash.
I had Hook in my notes. Yeah, who knew? Guys, we're breaking the news here. Hook is 100% based on The Island from 1980. If Andreas and I both picked up on it, then that's...
Wait, did you really? You also did?
Yes, because it's pirates trying to take a boy and be like, that's not your father, I'm your father. That is Hook, my friend. So...
I mean, the brainwashing is very different. You know, it's less baseball and more bullets in this one, but you know, I think it still applies.
If we ever score that Spielberg interview we've been angling for, that's our first question: is how much of Hook is based on The Island?
If he ever responds to our request to be on the podcast, you know, we'll definitely ask him. So expanding off of the IMDb plot description, Blair is a prisoner of the pirates, and look. In the movie, Justin corrects him when he calls them pirates. He says they're buccaneers, but we'll just call them pirates here. Blair is kept alive to mate with the one woman on the island, which we can get into that later. Blair tries to escape captivity several times but fails. There's a point where the pirates raid a massive sailboat, and Justin, being fully brainwashed, actually kills one of the passengers. Turns out there was a lot of cocaine on that ship, so naturally the Coast Guard shows up later to investigate. Blair creates an explosion to get their attention. Now, the head pirate decides the best course of action is to take over the Coast Guard ship. Blair is able to swim aboard and uses a 50 cal machine gun going full Rambo to wipe out pretty much all the pirates on deck. Luckily, his son was on a lower part of the ship, and so was Now. Now tries to convince Justin to shoot his dad. He can't, so Now takes him below deck and ties him up. Blair and Now have a sort of cat and mouse chase in the dark. They end up fighting. Blair shoots him in the stomach with a flare gun. Blair unties Justin and they hug, and then return home to live what I assume is a normal life full of love and a lot of therapy. All right, Greg, were you enchanted by The Island?
Hot take. I thought this was fun. I thought this was a fun flick. I enjoyed it. Look, okay, your movie categories: bad, okay, good, great. 4-star system. Ingrained in our DNA. We understand this concept. The Razzies would have you believe this is terrible. This is a horrible film. It's category number 1 bad. I would say It's okay.
Yeah.
That's my, so I do not think this is a terrible film. I think we can get into the flaws. There's flaws aplenty, but I had a really fun time watching this.
I would put it as okay. And we should note this was nominated for Worst Director, not Worst Picture. The Worst Picture nominees that year were Can't Stop the Music, Cruising, The Formula, Friday the 13th, The Jazz Singer, The Nude Bomb, Raise the Titanic, Saturn III, Windows, and Xanadu.
I do not think Xandu's terrible. I do not think Friday the 13th is terrible. Like there's movies on there where it's like, this started as a group of friends having fun. So I also think, let's not be a version of the Razzie ourselves. I think they're just trying to have a good time. We should just try and have a good time. I certainly think when it comes to the Razzies, some films are worse than others, but not all of those are terrible movies.
Agreed. Like you said, in terms of that four-tiered system, I thought it was okay. There certainly are flaws. The biggest issue for me is the lack of momentum. Like it's a pacing issue. Mm-hmm. And I feel like had there been a bit more urgency, the film would have been a bit more successful. And again, I know Michael Caine was nominated for Worst Actor. I think he did fine. Like I said earlier, he looked a little bored at times, but I also feel that that was just, I feel like maybe he wasn't given enough to do because there were certain aspects of what his character does that became a bit repetitive.
Well, it's like also pitch me this movie. There's fucking pirates. There's modern day pirates out there. First scene, guy gets an axe in the head graphically. Yeah. Another guy gets gutted. That's your opening scene. So you're like, oh, okay. From there, Michael Caine and his son are investigating. Michael Caine is kept as a sex slave on a pirate island and led around by a chain on his neck while his son gets brainwashed because he is super attractive to these pirates because he's really good with a gun. So they turn him into an assassin. Yeah, I want to see that movie. Sign me up for this thing. So I think to your point, the pacing maybe isn't as exciting as what I'm saying, but there are a lot of oddball nooks and crannies in here that I do think are worth watching.
Honestly, I'll say it. There is a great movie in this story that you could make.
Yep.
And I'd be excited for that version.
Also, like when my stomach kind of dropped when I saw this was close to 2 hours. I was like, oh no.
Same.
Oh no,
Same.
It's up for a red. But I was always entertained. This was, for me, I can't say, this was not a chore to watch. I get your pacing issues. I don't disagree with that. But every 5 minutes, something's happening. Here's a plane crash. Now they're being arrested. Now they're being kidnapped. Now there's a trial. There's a pirate trial that they go on. How well that stuff's pulled off, I think we that's what this episode's about. What worked and what didn't work. There's a ton of incident in here. There's no just sitting around.
It didn't always work for me. You know, one of the biggest things, and we haven't mentioned it yet, but Ennio Morricone does the score for this film. And honestly, after Orca and this, is there anything that man can't do? But here's maybe a hot take. I felt like there's a couple of, as I said in the plot description, there's a couple of moments where the pirates assault ships.
And what does that sound like?
It sounds like a swashbuckling adventure. Like it should be way more dark. It's
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because these pirates are fucking murdering innocent people. It's like da-da, ba-ba-ba-ba. It's like it's swashbuckling, and you're like, oh. And I feel like Ennio is like, Ennio, we're making a pirate movie. And say no more. And he starts like playing. It's like, no, Ennio, stop. We're making a horror thriller. No, that's Ennio. And
can we give him notes? Do we give him? I mean, it's okay. It's cool. He delivered
cool.
He delivered it on time. We're using it.
The soundtrack is woefully out of place.
Yes.
And I'm joking, but I honestly feel like Ennio's like, it's a pirate movie. I'm like a pirate soundtrack. And
agreed.
It does not fit the action at all.
We agreed on the hook connection. We agree on this. I honestly thought, like you just said, someone said it's a pirate movie, delivers a pirate score. Cool, here you go. And that's what they used. There's no point where you feel like you want to be part of this pirate colony. There's no point.
And maybe you could have gone in that direction.
Exactly.
Maybe that's a version of this. Yeah.
Had they made it more fun and enticing to be a part of this pirate group, then I would understand that score. But like you said, they're just killing innocent people on these ships, and there's this bombastic, heroic score.
Well, also, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, it's got, to me, interesting nooks and crannies. Okay, they attack one of the ships. on one of the ships, somebody puts up a fight. Andreas, what does that fight scene look like?
Oh, it's a kung fu fight, my friend. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love that. I love that this it came out of nowhere. One of the passengers just happens to know kung fu and is fighting.
A guy is kung fu fight. They're sending in pirates one by one to fight, and they know they could just shoot him. They stop. They're like, no, don't shoot this guy. We want to fight this guy mano a mano. And the movie just stops for like 2 or 3 minutes to watch a kung fu fight. And I'm like, cool, great.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm in. Yeah. I'm in.
Do you think that's in Benchley's novel?
Oh, it's a good question. We're gonna have to read this novel, aren't we?
Is there a kung fu fight in the Peter? So I not to get ahead of ourselves, but I think to dive in, I like Michael Ritchie as a director. Bad News Bears, Fletch, The Candidate, like Downhill Racer. I think Downhill Racer is a really good, like not as well known, maybe like sports movie. Redford's great in it. Prime Cut with Lee Marvin, nasty crime thriller. What are these things not? These things are not horror movies. I think he's very good at juggling tones. I think he's very good at juggling drama and comedy. You know, Bad News Bears, it's a comedy, but it's got real life like energy to it.
Yeah, it's so good.
And in addition to this, Golden Child, not the best film in the world. So I just don't think horror thriller is his wheelhouse. I mean, he went here a few times, and I thought moments where just people were just living life, like just people on the boats talking. Michael Caine just talking to people as he went by. The banter of people on the Coast Guard ship. That felt very natural and lived in to me.
100% agreed. Even Michael Caine in his offices in New York, you know, he's a journalist working at a big office in New York, and his rapport with everyone there felt so natural. And the beginning of that, like you said, the opening scene is fantastic when people on a fishing boat get attacked. And like you said, it ends with an axe to the face. But then going into, you know, we cut straight to Michael Caine arriving at work, and I was like, this is great. Why is this worse director? But then, like you said, you start to see the seams fall apart and that this isn't his wheelhouse. And it does suffer, unfortunately, because of that.
So a story that came to mind is there's an older Japanese film, The Woman in the Dunes, and it's a teacher ends up kind of he misses his bus, and these villagers are like, oh, hey, we got a place for you to stay for the night. And they end up kind of lowering him into a pit in a sand dune, but then they trap him there. And the idea is they want him to be the new man for the woman that lives there. Similar to how Michael Caine is treated here. And that dives into drama. That dives into it's a thriller. Can he escape? That dives into some existential themes. And you could do that here. It doesn't.
Yeah.
You have these pirates. So you've got this group of people who are like the ancestors of old-timey pirates who have lived in isolation for years and years. And they've got their own culture and they've got their own way of speaking and how what their society looks like. There's a doctor on the mainland who's kind of deranged and he's helping them. So he's part of modern society, but he loves how kind of backwards this is interesting him from kind of like an anthropological like standpoint. He wants them to keep going out and killing people. He doesn't want to disturb their way of life.
Right.
I think you could do something interesting with that. And what came to mind there was, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Hills Have Eyes, Mad Max, like stories of people kind of cut off from society, either by their own hand or, you know, just society's falling apart, kind of coming up with their own culture on that. That's there. But the tension in these other stories that I'm mentioning, it's not a thriller. I'm never on the edge of my seat. It's not really a horror movie. Aside from the axe to the head and the guy getting gutted, it doesn't really lean into that. And it 100% should be leaning into that. And I just don't know if he could twist the dial there.
I so agree. The tension is just not there. But the pieces for it are there. It's just, it's a little surprising that they didn't try to cut it more like that. And I think you could. I do think you could. You know, something else that came to mind is when Windsor, who is the doctor that lives off the island, but who's fascinated with the pirate colony, he tells Blair, you know, the history of the pirates and where they're coming from. And it's hundreds of years of people living off the grid, free from the outside influence. It reminded me of the stories you hear about the Amazon tribes, right? Who have lived in seclusion their whole lives. And Justin Lin has a film coming out called Last Days that follows the true story of the 26-year-old missionary who traveled to a secluded island to attempt to convert its inhabitants. And so that sort of aspect, you hear that and you feel like, oh, this could absolutely be played up like a thriller. And to your point, it's not. And I think the film does suffer because of that. But let's just go with swashbuckling score. They're pirates. Let's have fun.
I mean, it's funny. It wouldn't save it. I am curious if somebody did like a YouTube edit where they put in a more appropriate score. Would that change it a few degrees? I don't think it would like make a drastic difference. I do think it would make a difference.
Yeah.
Because, for example, when they're first captured, Michael Caine and his son are on like a smaller boat that gets boarded, and he manages to shoot one of the pirates before getting knocked out. He comes to, it's now night, and him and his son are tied up. And they're in the middle of a pirate trial. Basically, what do we do with these two that we just found? And Michael Caine killed one of their members, but he's also somebody not part of their community, and inbreeding is a problem. So maybe they can put him to work and have him try and like sire a child with one of their members. That's the nuts and bolts. You don't know that immediately. You are dropped into this pirate trial where they're talking in like a mishmash of English and like they get their slang, but Michael Caine has no idea what they're talking about. That's interesting. And that goes back to why it's like, I do think this movie is worth watching because it's full of like kind of interesting little moments, but it's not as scary and disorienting as it should be. You should be, it should be 100% from his POV, and he should be terrified of what are these people babbling about. And the woman that was with the guy that he killed comes out. What does she look like when you see her?
I was confused. I had two thoughts immediately. A, it looked like she was just covered in mud. But then as she kept speaking, I thought, oh, wow, is she suffering from leprosy? Like what's happening to her face? But then the next scene is Michael Caine in her hut and she's washed off everything that was in her face. And that's never really explained either. So
you get this great detail of this woman walking out of the shadows, covered in mud, just looking otherworldly, and she spits on him and she's upset. That's creepy.
Oh,
like, horrifying in real life. And in the movie, it's not half as horrifying as my description. It's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of. And to Andres' point, they never go back to that. Like, is that part of I guess that's part of their culture. And look, I love it when a movie doesn't explain everything. Sure. You could have explained a little bit more. Yeah. Another just weird detail. One of the guys on the pirate assaults lights his fucking head on fire. That's so cool. That's great. Like, again, that's not enough for me to be like, oh, it's a good movie. But like, there's the nooks and crannies here. I'm like, oh yeah, that is pretty cool. Like, how did you not stitch this just a little bit better into a slightly better movie?
Well, when it happened on the Coast Guard assault, it happens immediately. And my thought was, oh, wow, that's crazy, but cool. I get it. Because if a dude's running at me with his head on fire, it'd give me pause enough for them to just take me out. But then he puts it out right away after he does kills put it out.
Yeah, it is. But also, I get the hustle. Yeah, I'm gonna do this. True. Like, I gotta stop this. This was a bad.
My head's on fire. It was cool at first, but it kind of hurts. Awesome.
Also, they take kid prisoners in earlier attacks, and one of them is this little girl. She smiles. And that's creepy. Again, that's a good horror thing. So they use her as bait where it's like, oh, there's this innocent looking little girl. And then she turns and she does this smile. Then they attack. I want to take this movie and remake it like immediately.
Oh,
it's ready to go. And like just dust it off. And we got ourselves a pretty interesting little thriller here.
Well, let's get into categories because I did create a whole new category specifically for the Razzie Reeldemption. So let's go ahead and get into them. Our categories is our spot to highlight some of our favorite moments and performances from the film. Now, I'd like to begin with a new category. Greg, how would you remake this film to help it connect better with audiences?
No swashbuckling score, or save that for the credits, not during the movie itself. Lean hard into the horror. No shade. We're not about shade. This doesn't look like a horror movie. Like, we watched The Fog recently. What a wonderful, fun time we have with that. That feels spooky. That feels murky. You can feel the atmosphere. I want that pirate ghost Scooby-Doo energy permeating this entire thing. So I think we can dust this script off. Yes, you'd have to make a few changes. The basic script could still work. You just got to shoot it a little differently and really lean into like the horror stings. What do you think?
Like I said earlier, the pieces are there. You can easily remake this film, make it creepy and more of a horror film. I would heighten, like I said before, the momentum and pace it up, build that tension. I'd make the son less chummy with his dad in the beginning to sort of build up a level of tension between them so you believe the brainwashing a little bit more later on. Because
I see that, but also I feel like as a parent, I thought it was interesting because they were chummy. We can get to how that chumminess manifests in a scene that we have not talked about. But also, Michael Caine's let him down in the past. And
That's
he's letting
true.
him down now. He tricks him. So it's almost like Michael Caine hasn't come through for him to a
Yeah.
certain extent. And some other reviews I've seen online have been like, that punk kid, that whatever. And I'm like, I actually think I think he did a fine job.
Oh yeah, no. Typically, I'll be honest, I'm very sensitive to when kids are kind of annoying in films, and I was not annoyed by any of the kids in this film.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
though.
it's okay. That's
Oh,
no,
okay.
hey, we're here to discuss things. So if you feel it doesn't work, we can cut that out of our scripts. So for the Pirates or the Buccaneers, I would make it less is more. Hardly any talking. Just keep it to the bare minimum. There's a reason why Jaws works so well, right? We didn't see the shark as much. We can still see the Buccaneers, but let's keep them insidious. Let's keep them dangerous. And like you said, let's keep it to Blair's POV, where you have no idea exactly what they're up to. And using Blair's POV, we would see his son becoming one of them, kind of from a distance. To me, a big issue in the film is you don't really take the pirates that seriously. Like a lot of it is almost played for laughs, right? Like it's not, the danger isn't always as inherent. It's dangerous because of the situation, but I just, again, I would want to make them way more scary, more of a threat. Blair was able to escape from them several times very easily. Like you'd need to make that a little bit more of a challenge.
They should have like chopped one of his hands off.
Or a finger or something,
Yeah,
right?
so
Like
something to punish him. On what you just said there, I had so David Warner is the head of the Pirates.
yeah.
We love David Warner. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, what an amazing career. Isn't it interesting we haven't brought him up yet?
Yeah.
We haven't brought him up because he doesn't have a lot to do. Like he's the head of the Pirates, but like Leonard Maltin in his review, which calls it a bomb. Again, I wouldn't go bomb. There's too much interesting stuff in here, but I get it. I don't think you're crazy, but I just wouldn't go there. But he wrote, David Warner's casting he was taking issue with it because he's the most normal guy on the island. And I'm like, I see what he means. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't have a beard. He doesn't have a weird outfit. He's got kind of longer hair. That's it. The head of these pirates should be a fucking freak. This guy should be like the meanest of the mean, the toughest of the tough. He's just a guy.
Exactly. That's what I mean. You should you should look at like almost like someone who looks like Jason Momoa, just silent and standing there. You'd be freaked out by that.
Yep. No, I agree. I agree 100%.
The only two other things I would add in our remake.
Let's do it.
Is when he escapes. When Blair escapes, there's again, like I said, he does it a couple of times. I would build up the moments where he really has to struggle with leaving his son there to escape.
Yes.
Because he does it way too easily. Like he just sees his son hanging out and then he's like, I'm out. Now, that being said, you can read into it that he's doing that to get away with the intention of coming back, but that's never explicitly said. So maybe that's what they were going for. It just isn't detailed as well, which I think we would have to do. And then the only last thing I would do is they find cocaine on that one sailboat. Let's get some heavy hitter drug dealers involved. Looking for
that's good.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
Looking for their cocaine, and then maybe the Coast Guard shows up at the end, right after the dust has settled. But
drug dealers versus pirates.
I mean, we could even change.
Really good.
We could change the name to that. Yeah, drug dealers versus pirates, or getting the cartel involved. The cartel versus pirates. I want to watch that movie.
I would absolutely want to watch that. So
okay, our next category: heart of the film.
Clear your screenplay with Ennio Morricone before he sends in his...
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I feel like there's something yada yada fathers and sons. I don't know if that landed necessarily.
Yeah, I was gonna go that route. I went with, if you travel to the Caribbean, have a good exit strategy.
I agree. That's a good one. Just to double back on a few things. So early on, Michael Caine kind of like tricks his son into coming along on this trip by saying they're going to Disney World. And then I guess to make it up to him, he takes him to a gun store and buys him a gun.
But it's also the son is the one who notices the gun store and says, I want to go look. They end up buying a gun.
Now that does pay off because it shows the son's good with a firearm, which is going to be useful to the pirates, but just kind of an odd father-son bonding moment of like, oh, let's get a gun. Versus like Michael Caine just owning a gun and bringing it on the trip and the son proving that he's good. So just kind of the fact they went to the store and bought something, that's a little funny. And then we mentioned the plane crash earlier, but there's a whole plane crash sequence that's kind of like instantly forgotten. They're just on a plane, and then the son's like, oh, is that red light? What does that red light mean? And the pilot's like, oh no, our landing gear is up. Crash! And like, get out of the plane.
And then they run
like perfectly calm to like emergency in like 10 seconds. And then we're totally past it. This PTSD inducing plane crash.
Yeah, then they get arrested. The pilot is still arrested, but the cop lets the two of them go. Then they're at a hotel with bunk beds, and the next day they're just walking around, hey, let's go rent a boat to go fishing.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about what happened yesterday? That big explosion we had to run away from? Next category, favorite scene.
I hate to go with the open. I like the open because it totally suckers you into a different movie. Because it's like you got just a couple guys out in a boat, they're having a good time, they're laughing, very naturalistic dialogue, which Ritchie is good at.
Yeah.
Then this, little canoe kind of comes floating up. Boom, horror attack. If that vibe was the whole movie, we'd be in a completely different headspace with it right now. But it can't match it.
I actually really liked the fishing scene after Blair and Justin rent the boat from the doctor, go out fishing, and then that attack. Justin, all he wants to do is catch a barracuda, which they catch, and then they see someone, a little girl, drifting next to a lifeboat. She's wearing a life jacket. They go to her, and then she ends up, like you had already mentioned, her creepy smile. As soon as Justin reaches for her to pull her up, she shows her smile and pulls him into the water and starts to drown him. And Michael Caine is trying to help his son when the life raft is drifting closer and closer, and then a dude jumps out of that to attack him. I thought that was great, but I will say I really, really liked the schooner attack, the big sailboat attack. Obviously,
I just wish the sound. No, I agree. I wish the soundtrack was better.
That was the caveat I was going to give. If the music was better, but my immediate thought was, why are they attacking during the middle of the day? Because most of the other attacks were at night. But then I realized a ship that big it's too big of a prize to pass up. But like you said, with that score, if only it was a different score, because it's scary. It's a scary attack for the young people who are just enjoying sailing around the Caribbean and carrying drugs. But it also ends with Justin shooting one of the young passengers who's trying to hide out, and Blair witnesses that. So that's the moment he realizes, oh, his son has turned. He's all in with the pirates.
And after the kung fu attack, they execute the crew. You can hear like guilty, blam, guilty. Like these are all like, again, this is why I like this screenplay. I like that there's a lot of incidents. There's scary things happening. The execution doesn't always meet there. Sorry, while we're talking about the schooner, I thought it was funny that Michael Caine finds a flare gun and he's like, I'm going to use this flare gun. You can tell it's part of the plan. And the movie's like, hey guys, flare gun. And then the doctor finds it. He's like, whoop, I'll be taking this. He takes the flare gun. It's like, oh, I wanted to see Michael Caine shoot somebody with a flare gun. And then the movie taketh away, but the movie giveth, because back on the Coast Guard ship, he finds another flare gun. So I found it funny that you're going to play a flare gun card twice in the same movie, but I
like that. I like that it gets taken away because you're like, oh man. Yeah, like you said, it's the Chekhov's flare gun, right? You're just like, oh, I want to see that. Okay, favorite shot.
It's not about gore. The guy getting gutted, I was not ready for it. And that got my attention more than so it's like, it's not just because, oh, it's gory. I love gore. I was surprised it went that hard. And again, it maybe prepared me for a different movie than I was about to get. So that opening sequence, that punchline before it cuts away, I was like legit shocked.
Yeah. My favorite shot is after the sailboat attack. There's a moment where David Warner's standing next to Blair, Michael Caine, and Justin points his gun. And it's the shot of Justin is in the foreground out of focus and his gun is pointed at Blair or David Warner. Like you don't know. There's a moment where you can't tell who he's aiming the gun at. And it's just after that moment where you feel like he's completely brainwashed and indoctrinated to the pirates. So I thought that was a cool little moment. Unfortunately, it's a split second shot. Like I would have stayed on that for a little bit longer to give you that sense of, oh, is Justin still Justin or is he the pirate boy that they want him to be? MVP, most valuable performance.
I'm going to go Jeffrey Frank as Justin, the kid. Kid acting's tough. I think he gets put through the ringer. I mean, there's a whole brainwashing sequence where they're making him not sleep, and then when he's sleeping, they're dumping water on him, and now he's a pirate. Look, Michael Caine, he might be on my list like top 5 favorite actors of all time. He's amazing. I just don't think this is Michael Caine's best movie. That's all. So as somebody I was not familiar with, I thought Jeffrey did a really good job.
That's my pick too. Like I said earlier, sometimes kid actors aren't always the best. He was so natural. I mean, from the very first time you meet him reading a Playboy in his dad's office, he just acted so natural and so cool and chill. I honestly really liked his performance. According to IMDb, he's only in 2 projects. It's this and a TV series in 1983 called Blood and Honor. Like, I'm surprised he doesn't have more acting credits.
Same here. Oh, he did a really good job. Also, maybe that's a credit to Michael Ritchie because off of Bad News Bears, maybe he was just good with working with younger actors. I don't know. That came through here. So if there's certain Ritchie-isms from other movies that we enjoy more that we're like, oh man, why isn't that here? At least the kid performance was really good. The other kidnapped kids do a good job. They just don't have as much to do.
No, that's a great point because the acting he's able to get and performances he's able to get from the kids in Bad News Bears, that alone tells you how good a director is with child actors. So that's a great point. There's a great scene where there's shooting practice going on. The pirates are shooting bottles and they give a gun to Justin and he hits the bottle. So they recognize that he's a great marksman. So they decide to have Michael Caine hold up some type of massive fruit and have Justin shoot at him to shoot the fruit. He does. He's successful. Blair tells his son, oh, I knew you wouldn't hit me or something. I can't remember exactly what he says. But Justin's kind of like, yeah, I know. If I wanted to hit you, I would have hit you or something like that. And it's so creepy that you're just like, holy shit. But it's also a moment. I'm not a dad. You are. Wouldn't you have a little bit more of a reaction to that than he did?
Well, also, it's funny you mentioned that exact moment because I think even when he leans in, I don't have the exact quote, but he says like, don't worry, son, we'll take care of these turkeys together. And he calls them turkeys. And I'm like, let's get the fuck out of here. Just like, his response is like a 5. And maybe if pirates have kidnapped me and my son, I would take that maybe to a 9 out of 10 at least. So yeah. And like, I get being stoic. You don't want to freak out in front of your son. But I think there was in the middle of the night being captive, him like crying his eyes out or being horrified. And also, I don't blame Michael Caine or I don't blame David Warner. I feel like just some people here were just too clean cut. I want beards. I want being unkept. Like really show him being in captivity. And I didn't he'd be sweating and his outfit would get more beat up. It's not that there aren't details there. I want the total package. And I didn't feel that at all times.
Yeah. Underrated element.
I like the pirate culture. I wish I understood it a little bit. Like in Mad Max movies, I don't know every little thing, every little piece of slang, but it sounds natural. And when they're doing a rat-tat-tat back and forth, I'm like, oh, I'm enjoying that. Here, I didn't always get that, but I appreciate the attempt, like the mud mask, like the fire hat, like Justin shoots the guy up in the poop deck, the innocent person, he falls all the way down. One of the guys has the stethoscope and he makes a joke about how like it's like, oh, he's got falling sickness. I did like that. So I think that is underrated. That's an interesting part of the movie. I just think there's a better version of that could have come out. But I enjoyed that kind of like color to the film. What about you?
I'd say the set decoration of the huts in the village that the pirates live in, it's not really explored all that much. Like you said, their entire culture has left us with a couple of questions. I like that it's subtle and it feels like, and they feel like they're camouflaged huts using almost like mangrove branches so that if anyone were to fly overhead, you wouldn't be able to tell anyone lived there. I like that aspect.
I'll also say like Angela Punch McGregor as like the main, like the Smurfette of these pirates. And there is mention there's other women. Even the doctor he's like, well, with the inbreeding and the other. So they never spell out this is the only, but I think she's the only woman we ever see.
She is, yeah.
On camera. Yeah. Kind of thankless. She's there to, have sex with Michael Caine. He escapes multiple times. She always seems to be kind of kind to him after she gets over the initial being upset that he shot the guy she was with. She takes care of him. And there's a scene where he tries to escape and a jellyfish stings him. And then to punish her for letting him escape, the pirates end up stinging her with a jellyfish. Again, a cool bit of business. I feel like that character could have been written out a little bit more, but she was doing the best she could with it.
Exactly. She was not given a lot to do. And I really wish they would have explored that a little bit more. So in our remake, we'd have to add a few more female characters and show their place in this society. And them being pirates, descendants of 17th century pirates, it would reason that they would treat women like shit. So, you'd have to have that aspect. Which actually, maybe in our remake, we should make the Michael Caine character a woman. Make it a mom.
Oof. Also, I think Michael Caine should be like the head of the pirates.
He's like
he's the dad of the Jason Momoa character.
I like that. Who is having the most fun?
Frank Middlemass's Windsor was having the time of his life as the evil doctor.
Yes, same. That's who I have. He's loving his life. He's renting boats to unsuspecting tourists. He's living in a castle-like cave dwelling, and he gets to be friends with the pirates. Oh, yeah. He is loving life.
I was really happy when she shot him with the crossbow. He did a good job of making me not like him. So that was like a legit good performance in there. Like, oh, this guy sucks.
I would make him, I think, a little bit more menacing. Like, well, no, he did a good job.
No, you're onto something. He's fine. The pirates need to be more menacing. Then they can counterbalance each other. In many ways, for a long time, he's the main villain in the movie.
He'd almost have to be like the Dennis Hopper character in Apocalypse Now.
Oh, yeah.
Where he'd have to be, he knows what this world is about, but he's also not as fully pulled in. I don't know. We can flesh that out later.
In The Hills Have Eyes, the head honcho of the family is Papa Jupiter, Papa Jupe. You don't get a ton of time with them, but just the mention of them is like, so it's like they're even built up. I didn't need to know the pirate leader that well, but they should be like, I am horrified of this person. It's just not here. So I think that character, if it's like the Dennis Hopper, even playing that up and like this awe of this other guy, I think, yeah, they can do the heavy lifting for you. Then the other person doesn't need to even be in it that much.
Yeah, it almost have to be like this is someone who is enchanted or someone who loves pirate lore. And so they are just captivated by this whole society that's there.
And he kind of dances around it. Again, the script has a lot of, he basically says, I made myself useful to them. That's why they didn't kill me. And he could play that up. That's why you're still alive. You're useful. The second you stop being useful, you're done. At one point, I mean, they're spoiling the whole thing. The woman he's with gets pregnant, so they say, and they do a pirate wedding. Interesting. I think you could have played that up a little bit more because it's basically just one guy marrying them. I think he could have had like a whole giant party. Maybe they used the cocaine from the boat during that or something. Yeah. You never really get Michael Caine's feelings towards her. Like, I think he's sympathetic. Why don't they kill him then? He's achieved his goal. She's pregnant. So again, they don't spell all this stuff out, but I feel like he's done the job that they brought him in for, and he keeps trying to escape. What's the benefit of keeping him around? I think the head pirate wants his son to kill him. When is that ceremony going to be? When are they going to do it? So it's like, we don't know. So again, whole bunch of interesting little like nuggets in here, but not really played out. And I have questions about how these pirates run things.
What scene would you show someone to convince them to watch it?
I hate to keep going to the open because I think that it's a hook.
I was going to go the open, but I actually would go with the fishing and then attack, which I explained in the favorite scene category. It's not my favorite scene. It's up there, but I would show that because it shows the main characters and it also shows just kind of what they're dealing with. For me, the opening is fantastic, but I feel like you had already said it. It's setting up a movie that it's not.
It's a bait and switch.
Yeah, I think if I showed it to someone and then they watched the movie, they would get very mad at me. Okay, t-shirt quote.
A bunch of assholes playing Long John fucking Silver. And then like a pissed off Michael Caine's face.
I'll tell you my choice and then I'll give my runner up. So my choice is You'll Never Know What the Seal Cough Up.
Oh, yep.
The other one I was thinking is if you had a t-shirt of the poster, which we should talk about. The poster is actually really, really cool. It's a drawn poster. You see the island in the background and the ocean in front of you with a hand punching out of the ocean, holding a saber with, I think it's a pirate tattoo on the hand. Yeah. So if you have that poster on your t-shirt and it just says, don't forget to tell your mother you went to Disney World.
Also, that should have been the end of the movie. The kid goes in for a hug and like, don't tell your mother any of this.
Yeah. Or yeah, it should have been the kid going, can we now go to the real Pirates of the Caribbean ride?
Weeping on the we'll put that in the remake. They end up going to Disney World, then he has like a PTSD attack in the pirate.
As a flashback while they're on Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah. Or he pulls out the gun and shoots one of the pirates. Oh, that'd be hilarious.
This thing's a license to print money. I'm sorry, you guys can't have the remake rights. Steven Spielberg bought them in the late 80s so he could make Hook.
So he used them for Hook. Oh, amazing. All right. Oscar nomination.
Ennio Morricone score, The Highland.
Is that really your pick?
No, no. Okay, I will do Jeffrey Frank, Best Supporting Actor as Justin.
That's great. It's great. I'm going to go with stunts, particularly for Dennis Madalone, who's uncredited as Kung Fu Guy.
Uncredited. It's one of the best parts of the movie.
Do you know, I looked him up. He's also credited on Sam Raimi's Darkman for stunts, but his credit is Dangerous Dennis Madalone.
Well, we're fans.
Yeah, after that scene, I'm a fan. We always like to end our episodes by giving a crew shout out. Who would you like to highlight?
Just because it upped the production design, I'm going to go with Ray Pratt, the United States Coast Guard advisor. Because getting the Coast Guard involved at the end, I was like, I didn't know that. I did like the attack on the Coast Guard ship. Again, I think if it was a little bit tenser, that would have landed 5 times harder. But the fact it was there was pretty cool.
No, it was cool. I did question whether the Coast Guard would be that easily overrun by a couple of pirates. But, it's...
I also had that thought. But if you're just regular Coast Guard, how often does the Coast Guard get boarded? And then you're up against maniacs, one of which lit their head on fire for 10 seconds.
Yeah, the head on fire made everyone freeze. So you're right. That was it. I can't imagine that this was an easy shoot to oversee. So I'm going to shout out the unit production manager, Alan Levine. They also worked on 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Escape from New York.
Oof. 2 classics.
Two classics. Yeah, I actually just rewatched Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That movie holds up, man. That movie's great.
Good, yeah. Look, this was a lot of fun. I know the Razzies is supposed to be the worst of the worst and all this jazz. Look, hopefully it's just held up as a good time. I think that's it. I think we take things very seriously. I hate being in a totally nitpicky culture. I think there's something about having fun with a movie. I'm a big MST3K fan. I love the podcast, How Did This Get Made? I'm always there for a good time, but there's also the punching down, that type of thing. Your barometer may vary. This was fun. I get why it was up for a Razzie. At the same time, there was a lot in this that we enjoyed, and maybe we're going to be making millions off our remake when that comes. But I look forward to kind of tackling some other stuff out there too. And also, this isn't our favorite movie in the world, so it's not like we are going to watch these and be like, oh my gosh, this is like lost treasure. I just don't think this is a bomb. I don't think it's the worst movie in the world. There was a lot of fun to be had here.
There's a lot of fun. I think if you watch it, just go in knowing it lacks the tension it needs. We're not going to punch down. We like to celebrate films, and we're going to continue to do that. And with our Razzie series, we're going to keep watching films and hopefully find that gem that we weren't familiar with. So thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed what you heard, please support by leaving a like or a review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. You can find us on Blue Sky and Instagram at Reeldeemers. If you want to reach out and send a comment, you can email us at reeldeemers@gmail.com. Our music is by Adolfo Delanoy. You can check him out on Instagram at Adolfo Delanoy. That's DELANNOY. Thanks again, and be safe.